Hello, everybody. This is Omnixius, and I am the writer of the Dragon Knight Prophecy that you can read for free on RoyalRoad.com. Now, I want to cover a couple of points, and one of them is a bit bad, and the other ones are relatively good. But we're just going to jump on the bad one, and we're going to get it over with, because I want to move on to the happier things. That is, somebody jumped on my story and gave it a half star. Now, I realized that if you're a creator of anything, whether it be art or books, writing, poems, stories, whatever it is you create, videos, if you're going to put it on the internet, you have to be prepared for the trolls. You have to be prepared for the people who are going to lash out at you for whatever reason and try to damage you in some way. And of course, I'm prepared for this. I have thick skin. Somebody giving me a half-star rating is nowhere near as bad as some of the situations I have found myself in my life. But unfortunately, the way Royal Road works, I have to learn to enunciate. The way Royal Road works is you don't really get onto the lists and you don't really gain notice until you have a certain rank and you have a certain number of followers and that sort of thing. Because I'm a relatively young story, and I'm low on all of the numbers, one of the things that I was doing really, really well at is, despite having low numbers, and despite having very few people who had rated my story, almost all of them had rated it 5 stars. So I was really high on the ranking. And I managed to push all the way into the 800s. Now, keep in mind that when I joined Royal Road, there were almost 19,000 stories on it. So by now, there's probably over 20,000. To be in the low 800s means that I was beating out the vast majority of the stories in this. I was better than 95% of the stories in the site. The problem is because that ranking was coming from so few people that when one person threw in a 0.5 star rating in there, it had a dramatic effect on my score, and it yanked me way back. Now, fortunately, the way Royal Road works, because I got down to that low score initially, I started to show up on the trending stories list. I've showed up on some of the other lists, and I'm visible now, and that's getting me a lot more reads. Like I've had almost 1,000 reads today, and, which is my record number, and I'm really excited. I'm really happy about that. But this person has thrown me back, and when the trending stories list updates, I will likely be pulled back out of it, and then everything will slow down again. It's unfortunate the way the system works, and Royal Road really can't do anything about it. I don't expect them to do anything about it. Over time, once my story's been up there for a while, and I have hundreds of ratings, one person throwing a 0.5 in there, or 5 people doing that, won't have a traumatic impact. It'll hardly move the thing one direction or another. So that's just the thing. It's a way of life. But I wanted to mention it because it does irk me. I'm really proud of my story. I'm trying really hard. I try to reply to as many of you as I can. I try to engage with my audience, and I've listened to your feedback, which is something I want to talk about next. And that is, I've read the feedback about my second book dozens of times. I have the private messages, the public messages, and I've come to understand that I set up I created a very bad setup going into book 2, and that is, I told this amazing love story that occurs between Gersius and Lily, and then at the end of book 1, we finally get the payoff. This story that these two characters who have just been missing each other in this love story, we finally get the payoff, and we have the characters joined together. They now have this double strong bind, and the readers were hungry to find out more about that. So we went into book 2, and I immediately dragged the focus away from that and was shining it on Lily and Thale flirting with one another. And I never bothered to explain to the reader why. And Gersius was just sort of passively going along with this, and it left a lot of people scratching their head going, what is going on here? Why are the characters suddenly behaving in a manner that is totally alien to how they behaved in the other book? Well, there's a reason for it. And my initial logic was, I'm going to tell these initial opening chapters, make everybody I thought I was making everybody curious and making everybody wonder why is this stuff suddenly happening, and then there was going to be a big reveal, and everybody was going to go, oh, now it makes sense, now I understand. But the problem here is I'm doing two things wrong. One is I'm damaging people's opinions of the characters, because now the characters are doing things that people don't like, and it's damaging them. Even when the payoff comes later, you're going to carry that damage with you into the later chapters. So even if I explain to you later why these things happen and you can agree that, okay, now it makes perfect sense, I've still damaged your opinion of the character, and you're going to carry that forward. The other problem, and this is perhaps maybe the bigger problem, is that some people aren't even going to get that far. They're getting 3-4 chapters in, and they're abandoning the story because they just can't stand to see the characters doing what they're doing. You know, it's too big a departure for them. It never occurred to me that this was going to be a problem. It never did. So I realized that I needed to tell a whole chapter, or maybe 2 chapters of story before my book actually starts. So there either needed to be a big prologue, or I needed to find a way to squeeze another chapter in there so that I could explain ahead of time what was going on. And thus my readers could be filled in. And then as they were witnessing this strange behavior that was occurring later, they already understood what was going on, and it made more sense. So that they weren't waiting for the big reveal later. They were like, oh, okay, this is part of that, that thing. I know why this is happening, and then it explains why Gersius is behaving the way he is, why Lily's behaving the way she is, and why so much of the focus keeps slipping to Thale. The fact of the matter is, this is a harem story, okay? Thale is the next wife in line. And I wrote a whole book to bring Lily in, and I'm not going to write a whole book for Thale, but this is Thale's time to enter the story. This is Thale's story now. So what I should have done, and I've said this already in another recording, is I should have opened this book with a good 3 chapters of just Lily and Gersius, with Thale being in the background. But as we close on the 3rd chapter, have the focus of the 3rd chapter be Lily and Gersius coming together with the understanding that they both love Thale, and they now want to consider and plan a way to bring Thale into their relationship. Well, how do we bring her in? How do we win her heart? And then it would have made so much more sense for the reader. Since I didn't go with that setup, I had to find another way to do it. So I wrote a whole new chapter 1. I didn't replace the original chapter 1. What I did is I just bumped it. So what was originally chapter 1 became chapter 2. And then, chapter 2 became 3, 3 became 4. You understand. And I slotted in a new chapter 1. I wrote it all today in about 5 hours. It's a little over 7,000 words. And, I did this. What you're looking at here is a rough draft that has then been passed over twice to do just what I consider to be my editing process. It's gone through it twice. Then it got sent into Grammarly. Then once it comes out of Grammarly, it goes back through one more full edit where it gets all of its formatting changes, and I put in all the paragraph breaks and everything that need to be there. And then it goes to Royal Road. So under normal circumstances, since I'm working, most of my story is coming from chapters that are already written. So under normal circumstances, since I don't have to write them, I will pass through them 5, 6, 7 times, just reading them myself and looking for ways that I can clean up the grammar, clean up the paragraph structures, say more with less words, or places where I'm just not being descriptive enough, or where I'm literally just tweaking the story. This one, what you're seeing here, is me literally writing it in one pass, giving it just 2 quick run-throughs to clean up the most egregious errors, and then on to Royal Road it goes. So hopefully, this is a good insight into the rate at which I can write, and it'll hopefully everyone's going to like it, and hopefully it's going to do the job that it is intended to do, which is to explain what's going on in the later chapters. Why is Lily behaving the way she is? Why is Gersius behaving the way he is? And why is Thale so often the focus of the story? Hopefully it explains all that. And of course, once the story reaches the point where Thale starts to actually weave in and become meshed in with our characters, the story's focus switches very strongly back to Gersius. Right now we're sort of telling Thale's story. I should have, like I said, I should have had 3, 4, maybe 5 chapters strong of just Lily and Gersius, the story being focused on them, and then started to tell Thale's story. I should have done it that way. I didn't. So hopefully this is a good compromise. And this is, of course, me listening to my readers, listening to what they had to say, reading their messages, reanalyzing the story myself. I started to post chapters kind of slowly because I was constantly going back and rereading this and trying to ascertain where I went wrong. And the more feedback I got, the clearer the picture I got. Because some of you just told me, "Oh, I just don't like where you're going with the story. I'm not going to read it anymore." That doesn't help me. That doesn't tell me anything. I had to start physically sending people messages and saying, "Well, what specifically don't you like?" Well, I'm not getting it. And thankfully, some of you responded, or I'd never have been able to pinpoint this. So hopefully this works. Hopefully you guys will understand why Gersius is being so passive. He's not being passive. He's being very sneakily proactive. But read that chapter 1, and you'll understand it. Basically what he's doing is he knows Thale has rejected him once, and she rejected him soundly. So he has a thing kicking around in the back of his mind. That thing kicking around in the back of his mind is going to be the big reveal later. But he's got something in the mind where he's clued into Thale a little bit, and he believes that the best bet to bring Thale into the relationship is to let Lily do it. Thale responds to Lily better, so let's let Lily, just be Lily and keep sharing with Thale and keep spending time with Thale, and see if it starts to draw Thale in. And then once that draw in starts to happen naturally, that's a very big point for him. He doesn't want Lily to force this. He wants it to occur naturally. Then he's hoping that there can be a new conversation about her perhaps sharing her love with them both. That's where he's going. But that's why he's being so standoffish. This whole chapter 1 will explain it all. This whole new chapter 1 will explain it all. And like I said, I should have done it the other way. It really should be 3, 4 chapters, but hopefully this is a good compromise and my readers will be happy. And literally all I did was I tried to think, what could there's a 5-day gap here where they're in the temple. What could happen in this 5 days? Some mundane thing that they might do that I can just write a story arc around that just demonstrates a lot of the love Gersius and Lily share and how the bind works, and then bring them to the realization that they both love Thale. And how do I work that into the story? And I think I did a good job. Anyway, I'm ending it here because I'm just going to keep babbling on. Thank you all for listening, and I hope I catch you in the next one.